Welcome to Cyber Inspiration Podcast. My name is Evgeniy. I have been around cybersecurity for the last 20 years and I have a lot of experience working with a variety of cybersecurity vendors. My main work is vendor consulting and cybersecurity advisory for companies. As part of my passion in technology and cyber, I've been intrigued to learn how a company starts. I started the podcast to understand the thinking process and what motivated people to start their own company. This podcast is affiliated with Security Architecture Podcast. I have a pleasure today to do a very, very exciting episode with Graham, Jaye, and John, and we'll talk today about a topic that's very, very dear to my heart, how to talk about zero trust, sell it right, don't get caught, and actually finish the project. What's a journey? What's a project? We'll talk about this today, if you can actually finish zero trust or not. So, guys, please do a quick intro, what you guys do for a living and where you are now.
What do we do for a living in the real world or in our spare time? In the real world, I'm a CTO for HPE Networking, working in the security business unit under the office of the CTO. In my spare time, I co-founded with Jaye Tillson the Zero Trust Forum, where we bring in experts like Evgeniy and talk about zero trust from a practitioner's point of view.
Okay, so I'm John's brother from an English mother based on the other side of the ocean. I do the same role as John for HPE, but also in my spare time, try to speak as much as I can about zero trust and about cyber and really try and help organizations on what I see as very much as a journey of becoming more secure. I spent most of my life on the manufacturing side of companies before going to a vendor, so 25 plus years of walking the walk and not just talking the talk. Thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Graham. I also have a long background working in some manufacturing companies, CPG, all in the security space. I am now with John and Jaye in the same team at HPE. Went from the practitioner side to the vendor side about 2 years ago now, and privileged to work with them and to collaborate on this, what I think is an important work to help bring my and their experience to bear to so many other people struggling with security and zero trust these days.
Yeah, and I want to add one other thing. We all introduced ourselves as working for HPE, but the book itself is a project outside of HPE. It's non-sanctioned. We did have them, obviously, because we worked there, take a look at it. But at the end of the day, this is not anything that is HPE sanctioned, or it is not about their marketing or any of the frameworks. So this is a independent work that is John, Graham, and Jaye's.
I think in general, you guys did an amazing job without quoting any vendors, without promoting any vendors. It's a very, very vendor agnostic book. I love the book. I read the book for the last week and a half. And one part that struck me right away is you're not talking about the bits and bytes right away. You mentioned this later on. You are dealing with the parts that a lot of people don't understand. How do we bring it to the business? Why business will care? Because if business doesn't care, you're not able to sell it. We kind of all joke that we're all in sales. I do believe we're all in sales. So you have to sell the project. You need to explain why it's important, why it's become the business, not why security is no longer a cost center, why it's actually enabling and improving what you guys are doing. So usually I ask for an inspiration of the book and how it came to, but I'm going to reverse it in a way. I want each of you to talk about your favorite chapter and why. And then we'll talk about the inspiration, how the book came along.
There's a chapter in there that talks very much about zero trust being about the humans, right? About people. And I went first because I'm pretty sure that the others might think this is their favorite chapter as well. But I truly believe zero trust is about a cultural shift. It's not just about technology. I believe that technology can help, but if we don't align teams together and we don't explain to the business and we don't bring people along on the journey, then we're not going to get anywhere. And I'm not just saying this is the case for zero trust. I think personally, this is the case for a lot of projects. Having managed and worked in IT teams pretty much all of my career, if you don't bring people along and you don't explain to them why you're doing things and what the outcomes are going to be and how they're going to benefit the business, then you can get resistance. And specifically when it comes to cyber is quite often seen as kind of the part of the business that says no to people. And I think zero trust, being called zero trust, has complexity as well. But I think if you don't bring people in and you don't involve people, then I think you're not going to go anywhere with this particular topic and everything else.
And what's the name of the chapter?
Oh, I'd have to look that up. You can't expect me to memorize every single chapter in the book. Come
You
on,
can
guys,
look
do you
for this
remember?
meanwhile, but John and Graham, maybe. John, what is your favorite chapter?
I believe it's chapter 5, and it starts off with a story about how I went into our finance department and had a conversation with our CFO about a project that, from a technical point of view, slam dunk. It had a return on investment, and quickly the conversation became very financial, and I got asked about net present value, about hurdle rates, and this was language that at the time was foreign to me. And I quickly realized that I was out of my depth. And as a technical leader, I was missing an entire skill set that I needed to learn. The chapter really revolves around how to equip a leader on how to talk to financial people, how to understand their language, and how to broker between technology and, at the end of the day, what a business is based on, and that's how to make a dollar. To me, that was a huge unlock in my career, and thus one of my favorite chapters for somebody looking to go out and run a zero trust project.
And that is indeed John, chapter 5, and mine was chapter 11, the human side of zero trust.
So, Graham, what about you?
It's sort of like, I guess, picking your favorite pet or your favorite child. It's hard to pin it down on one, but I'd say the one that I think is really important that I really like is the second chapter, which is about bridging the security and infrastructure divide. If I have one, let's say, regret about my various zero trust projects and initiatives, it's that I wasn't able to work better with my own infrastructure teams and bringing them along in the journey. I had some hard lessons there, and we talk about in our book, we've made mistakes. That's kind of why we wrote the book. We wanted to pass those on to other people so they don't make the same ones. And not to say it was a disaster, of course, but looking back, it is such a different way of thinking. Deploying zero trust, it's a human issue, but it's also a technical issue. And getting people to think differently and accept change is phenomenally difficult. And I do think that there's so many, call that infrastructure elements involved in so many different types of zero trust projects that one really resonates with me. And that's the one, I guess, that if I had one chapter to take back in time with me, maybe 10 years, I'd probably want to take that one with me.
This is a good one. Can you bring a topic that I wanted to talk later, but if you already bring it up, why not? Would the book will be relevant in 5 years with AI coming in, bots taking over, 10 years? What do you think?
Yeah, it is. It will be. I mean, I've called the book, when I reflected on it, it's a leadership book disguised as a technical book. And if you don't have that leadership perspective, that really is the core message of the book. Even in the age of AI, you're going to be missing out and making the same mistakes that we've made again and again and again, deploying zero trust to enterprise environments. So the core message is there. The technology side, probably going to be revised in version 2, version 3, as we go further into the AI era, but the core message doesn't change.
Yeah, and I mean, the book was built up from our years of experience, and I'd hate to put a number on it, but it's decades between the three of us. And it's on experience of delivering other projects, with communicating with the business on other things, with how to do that, what worked, what didn't work, how to budget, how to resource, all of those topics that, yes, the focus is zero trust in the AI world, but it's wider than that. And I think, and I don't mean this to come across wrong, but I think we've been able to put this book together because we've been in the trenches, because we've got the scars, because we've done these things, and because between the three of us, we have made mistakes. I don't think any of us would say we haven't. And we've also spoke over the past 10 or so years with hundreds of people who have made their own mistakes or have done things more successfully across a wide range of delivery of projects, of those communication styles. And I think that's critical. So even if the world shifts a little bit, I think we will still continue to need to do these things that we outline in the book. I don't think that's going to fundamentally change.
Yeah, I think that there's two things that are going to carry this book well into the future. The first one is that zero trust as an approach, a philosophy, it's about doing the basics right and doing things that I think we all know we should have been doing for decades, but maybe we let slip because IT needed to work a certain way and the risk levels were very different decades ago than they are today. So I think that's one thing, getting back to basics and doing it well. But also, I think that AI is actually making the stakes higher for security with automation, with orchestration, with agentic security and agentic adversaries on the horizon. If you're not doing some of these both basic things that you need to be successful, but also bringing in advanced techniques to secure your company in this very dangerous world, you're going to fail. So I still think zero trust as an approach, it will evolve and change, but I think that it will well prepare companies for facing the threats of the near future.
Let's do a bit of a blitz. If everybody play chess, it's a very, very quick answer. So let's sentence. So what's basic? Give me a sentence, each of you. Grant, maybe start with you. What's the basics mean for you?
Network segmentation, keeping things
Okay.
apart from each other.
Okay.
Everything must have an identity.
Identities are non-carbon and carbon.
Don't underestimate leadership.
Okay. Let's do a fun one. Sell me that I need to do zero trust project as a business person, each of you.
I wouldn't actually approach it and call it a zero trust project. I would approach the business, especially if I was a security leader, and I would sit down and talk about the world and not scare them, but talk about the realities of the world we're living in and explain to them why granular access and segmentation and those things are important. And if I was in a vertical that had regulations or stuff, I would maybe lean in on them. But what I would definitely do before I did any of that was have conversations with people across the different areas of the business and gain their support in a way that was specific to them. I would speak with operations. I would speak with marketing about maybe if we got compromised, what would they see as the downside? I would speak to the people in the warehouse and ask about what would happen if you couldn't ship equipment. So I worked for a Japanese company many years ago, and you would gain your samurai, you would talk to your samurai and you would build up this army. And then by the time you actually got to going in and speaking to the board, everyone was talking about the journey that you were going on your behalf. You didn't need to really do any more work. It was already something that people just assumed would happen. So that would be the approach I would take. And I think calling it zero trust still has a little bit of negative connotations around that. And I think a lot of people are getting a little bit, I don't want to say bored with the term, but there's a bit of burnout in regards to the term. So for me, it would be about securing the business and making it more efficient versus we're going to do a zero trust project, because this is not an IT project, it's a business project.
So quick hitter here. So how would I sell it? I'll tell you how I sold it successfully in a hospitality company. Went to the executives and I said, if you checked into a hotel and there were no locks on the doors, would you feel safe? That's our network today. This project is about doing those basic things so that our computer systems, our IT, is just as safe as our guests when they stay at our properties.
Yeah, and I think what Graham said there is the right approach. Too often, we as technology leaders sell it in terms of technology. We walk in there with our widgets, our PowerPoints, and we talk tech. The business doesn't understand that. And then what Jay pointed out was what the business understands is if you're talking to somebody who is in the manufacturing space and they run the manufacturing lines, you got to translate the language to what they understand. If it's a financial person, again, don't talk about VPN. Talk about what is the outcome that they will benefit from by this program. So avoid the tech talk. Talk about outcomes in terms of business language that audience will understand.
Let's go back to where the show is supposed to start, like 15 minutes in the show. The inspiration about the book, how it came, why it came, and then we talk about next steps. So tell me about the inspiration and who started this.
Yeah, this was Graham and I had a request to do a session for Gartner Security and Risk last summer in June. That was when the show was. So we started the process, I want to say in April or May. And rather than do a kind of a vendor pitch we just started riffing on different ideas, and it became something that we wanted to talk about our fails, areas where we didn't succeed, lessons that we had learned the hard way. And that really became the genesis of the book. When we presented it at RSA, the room, these events, if you're late in the week, there's not a lot of people that show up. So we were like, we'll see how the audience turns out. The room was packed. It totally resonated. The topic resonated from the catalog. Room was packed. We talked for 30 minutes. It was super fun, and we made it very enjoyable. Graham has a mean sense of humor, and I say that in a good way. And that came through. We threw out polls to the audience, really put on a good show. Stage got rushed. We ran into people in the hallways. Like, that was a great session. Loved it. Even the analysts who stopped by were like, hey, that was great. And so we started talking, and I started talking to Jaye, started talking to Graham. I'm like, guys, there's something here. There's something here. We started the writing process at that point, and basically it grew out of that presentation.
Love it.
Yeah, I want to say I decided to go to the dark side in a vendor so that I could help more organizations. I think many people work in IT because they want to help. Obviously, there's the geeky side of things, and I'm going to say that I am a nerd and a geek, but I fundamentally wanted to help people. Went to the dark side so that I could, in theory, help more people. And then when I and John originally started the podcast, it was the same thing. It was to get information out there to try and help people. And I know John and I spoke about doing a book before a few years ago, but I honestly think bringing Graham into that conversation, and although we have all done similar things, we also look at things slightly differently. And I think we brought different parts to the puzzle. And I think without the three of us working together, I don't think the book would have gone on the journey it went on. And I certainly think it would have been a lot different if I'd have wrote it independently, or John did, or Graham did. And I think bringing that experience together, and it was something that I was quite excited about when we first started talking about it. And it's one of those things where you think, how are we going to do this? How's it going to work? How are we going to get this out there? And then once we got to a certain point and we started sharing some of the original content with some other people in the space and saying, do you think this is useful? Because none of us wanted to write a book and then hand it out to people and they were like, we don't want this. At least I don't believe any of us wanted to do that. But once we started sharing it with some other folks and they were like, there's no other book like this in the space, this is really quite useful, then that encourages us even more to continue on the process. And it's only been out a few weeks now, and we're getting some great feedback on it. So that really validates the effort and the work we put into doing it, at least in my opinion.
Agree. This is very, very cool. Tell me about the process. So how the writing started? Like, I wrote a book. I spoke with many people that wrote the book. Everyone has a different way. Some people allocate time. Some people just have some kind of inspiration to write the book. So how did it work? And it's three of you. How did you decide which chapter who's writing?
I'll start with this answer. So it was very interesting. I think what Jaye said about us working together to make this work was really important. I'm a very structured thinker. I mean, from a pragmatic standpoint, we used collaboration tools in Google Drive, and I actually built a little Google spreadsheet with like chapters, and does it have this? Does it have this? Does it have this? Does it have this? Very mechanical. Let's make sure we're getting the right elements into every chapter. And it's funny because the chapters have changed so much since we started. That's why it's hard for us even to say what's a favorite chapter, because we've merged and unmerged. But I'd say I'd like to believe I brought some structure to the process, as well as my information and my perspective. And I'll let Jaye and John each say what they brought to the process. But in the end, I will say that it worked well. I think that it's a good project. I think people will find it very helpful.
Yeah, it was. I brought the raw materials. Let's just say that the presentation that Graham and I put together really was, I call it the spine of it. And so then that just got me going. So I got, inspired and just started writing, riffing, researching. And I'll be honest, ChatGPT, a great research assistant. You put in a query and it would spit out a bunch of information, and then you'd counter it and argue with it and wrestle it down to the ground. And eventually you would get an outcome that could be refined further and you leverage a tone of voice, so on and so forth. And then at the end of the day, Graham really provided a lot of the humanity to it. So he's got a great insight as a leader. It aligns with my philosophy, but probably even more has a deeper sense of humanity at times, and that comes out in the book. It's there. And then it was the research that we ended up doing too, so pulling from podcasts, pulling from conversations, leveraging the community that I've built over 10-15 years of industry insiders, having conversations with them. I talked to Bill J. Pruitt, who was previously at Palo Alto Networks, now at Elicity, on segmentation. Huge insights there. We talked to a gentleman that works for the company that we worked for. Huge insights there. Analyst Andrew Lerner, who I know is one of the more well-known networking folks out there. He was kind enough to spend an hour and a half with me talking through his insights on zero trust and other things. Those are some of the folks that we talked to. Roy Choa as well. We talked with Chase. We talked with Kindervag as well, so on and so forth. So this is, I think it's well over 150 to close to 200 conversations that we leveraged to build this out.
And we passed the draft out to a number of people that we know, whether they be CISOs working in organizations, or whether it was the likes of Chase or George Finney and some of the other folks doing some stuff around AI. We had got their feedback. We got some people were really good, and we wanted, I don't want to say harsh feedback, but we wanted critical feedback that was not just them reading it as friends, but people that were like, okay, you should do this, you should do that. And we got some great feedback around swapping some of the chapters around. We got some feedback around maybe you need to add some stuff around budgeting, maybe the flows are slightly different, and those kind of things. And both Chase and George have given us forwards for the book because they really thought it was useful and a good resource. So passing that information out and getting that critical feedback, I think that played a critical part in the journey of the book, because we all read the book, but we all put our stories in the book, and we did all those kind of things. And it's very easy to look at what you've done and gone, this reads great, we like it. But for it to be valuable to people outside of the three of us, we needed that input. That was an area that I focused on, getting that critical input, adding my stories into the book. And I think as John refers to me, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer right now. I'm the one responsible for doing the rah. And I have to be honest, I think we're already, or at least in my opinion, we've surpassed what I thought we were going to do in regards of sales. I thought maybe my friends and family would buy it only. So I've either got more friends and family than I thought I did, or it's doing okay. I'm hoping it helps people. I'm hoping they read it, and even if they only get a tiny little bit out of it, and not every chapter was useful, but some of it helps them on their journey, then we would have done what we set out to achieve.
Awesome. It's been 25 minutes. We can probably record for another hour, but we'll keep it relatively short. We may have to do another one and go deeper in some of the chapters. But meanwhile, I really hope this show will air before RSA. So if you listen to us right now, Wednesday, 10, 11, what time? When is the book signing?
That's a good question, John. You'll have to check because mine's going to be in UK time. But we have a book signing. If you're part of the Cloud Security Alliance and you go into their event in Fang on Monday evening at RSA, we have a book signing there. And we also have the book signing in the bookshop, the RSA Bookshop.
It shows, 11:30 on Wednesday, the 25th. We'll be there with copies of the books. And if you guys see us in the hallways, high five, tell us zero trust or bust or whatever it is that you want to say. Show us the book, social
and
it up,
we will
please.
add a link as well. I may bring my own book, or maybe grab a copy there, depending on how much
we'll sign that.
We'll definitely sign that for you.
Thank you very much, guys. See you soon. We didn't talk about pizza, but it will stay for our sake.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.